Let me just quickly, it's a big topic. Chirag wanted me to speak on both inside and outside. So let me just get going here. The subscap tears in different fashion, you need to know the Lafosse classification. The tragedy is that 95% of the subscap tears that we'll deal with are type 2 and type 3. So they all can be done inside the box. And there are only 5% who are genuinely outside the box. Isolated subscaps are ever so rare, and that is where the challenge is. So I'd rather concentrate on that one because the larger tears are the ones that are missed and incorrectly addressed. So on the type 2 and type 3, you have to mandatorily include the biceps as a tenodesis when you're doing a subscap repair. We can discuss that later. And when it's an inside the box, it's just a cruciate technique where you repair mediolateral and superior inferior. And always try the horizontal sutures first. So I'll quickly breeze through the inside out technique. Sorry. So you're looking at a left shoulder, and this here is your subscap tear. And it's usually the upper corner, upper 1/3 or upper 2/3. That's type 2 and type 3. And it can be deceptive. So if your MGHL is vertical, if your upper corner near the pulley of the biceps is torn and frayed, don't take it as it's just frayed. You can't accept that. You have to pass in your eye strongs or your suture retrievers, hold that end, grab the piece of tendon. Unlike the rotator cuff, the subscap tears start from within the body. So you pick up the corner, tension it, and if you can see this tension, and you can see that the MGHL is going oblique, then that means that this deserves a repair. And then you can proceed and take a. If there is no change in the length tension, then you don't need to. Then it's only a type 1, and you can safely ignore that. Sorry, again there. And so this is the post repair, and now you can see the isometric tension between the tendon and its footprint, and the footprint has to be covered completely. So if your anchor goes correct into the footprint, then you have tensioned the subscap very well. So the other challenge with the subscap is finding the correct trajectory for your anchor. So there's the in the face, as Burkhardt has described. It has to come really steep in the face of the patient to go in there, and then your assistant has to hold the arm in forward flexion, external rotation, and to facilitate that angle of attack. If you don't get that angle of attack, your anchor will skid or damage the cartilage and you won't get it right. So be sure to do that, and that's why it's done through outside in. Use the needle to decide that it is coming through well, and then that's your picture. And once you've done the type 2 repair, then you go on subacromially, and there's usually a small rotator cuff tear associated with the anterior superior component. You finish off the cuff subacromially. So mandatorily, you do the subscap first. That facilitates the supraspinatus, detensions it, and allows it to be reparable. This is a case of a massive subscap tear, as you can see on the axials here. And I would rather evaluate my subscaps on the sagittal, where you can see that the footprint of the subscap is completely bare, naked, there's nothing there. And you can see, this is a very important view, you can see that almost 75% fatty infiltration, fat substitution, and very little muscle mass there. So this is your classic type 2. This one is a right shoulder, beach chair position. Clearly see the biceps is subluxed completely. And initially when you look in, it doesn't look too bad. You can see that the subscap is right there in front of you. But as you see, it's not covering the footprint, it's just floating in the air. Sometimes these are sleeve avulsions where the subscap and supraspinatus are connected and they're just floating in place. And the key in diagnosing here is to look at the footprint of the subscap. And if you see the lesser tuberosity completely exposed, and this is an extension into the supraspinatus as well. So here we're going to have to do an outside the box subscap repair, double row, and then finish off with the rotator cuff repair. Now there's a scheme here, and none of the books give the scheme, so that's why I have give this algorithmic approach that for the out of the box repair technique, number one, you have to go out of the box. To be able to do that, the first step is to do a rotator interval resection first, so that you create a window. So when you're out of the box, you can see inside and outside simultaneously. Then it's again, as I said, mandatory to do a biceps tenodesis. Identify the axial nerve, identify the conjoint so that you're not mixing the two. It's not difficult to inadvertently fix the conjoint with the subscap, and that would be a disaster of the highest order. And then start tying your sutures from bottom to top, inferior to superior. So try and be with me. This is a little different perspective. And here we are coming in. This is the rotator interval release that is being done. And that's pretty standard. You can understand. Try not to harm the subscap that is in the way. So you can see that subscap, because of the sleeve avulsion, is going very high and superior there. And once you've done the release, then you can see the conjoint tendon here, and that tells you that your release is adequate and you've got a perfect window to look in and out. This is when you come outside the box and you're now tracing. This is the subscap on your left side, and then the conjoint on your right side there. And in that space there, you should be able to find the axial nerve. So you use the non-business end of the radio frequency to just dissect out gently without harming tissues. Try not to activate your radio frequency, because if inadvertently, if you press the yellow button, you can harm the axial nerve because it is very close here. And so if you know your anatomy and you can see a streak of fat that's passing in medial to the conjoint tendon, then you should be able to identify the axial nerve. The reason you do that is because the subscap tear goes all the way down. This is the type 4 subscap tear. When you're passing your indirect suture shuttle, you can again capture the axial nerve without realizing that. And so here you can see that's the axial nerve. We'll skip this. There it is. That's the axial nerve. Give me a minute to finish this. That's the conjoint on your top side so that you can identify. Those are the sutures coming. You can see how close they are when you're passing the device. So you don't want to create an internal rotation contracture. And then you pull out the scope from the posterolateral portal and come back into the anterolateral portal. That's your working viewing portal. And then you can see how the long head of biceps is right there interfering your view. And then this is the view when your biceps is gone, and then you can evaluate your cuff and the subscap in a much better fashion. So that's why you address the biceps by taking a clever hook, and you can do a loop-in-loop suture or a luggage stack suture to grab. So one of the top anchor suture goes to the biceps to do the tenodesis. You don't need a separate anchor for that. And then you can do your tenotomy of the biceps, like how I'm planning here. And that takes the biceps off and improves your visualization of your this thing. And this is the view with the biceps in position. This is the view without the biceps. And that is where you can pick up the comma. You must understand the comma. If you pick up the comma, then you've picked the perfect superolateral corner of the subscap to sit down into the footprint. If you pick up something wrong, then you've not tensioned the repair properly. And then you start your bites inferior to superior like what you're seeing here. I prefer an indirect suture shuttle. You can use any of the Scorpion or your first pass devices to make life easy. But be careful that you know that the axial nerve is right there in the neighborhood. Once that is done, then these are sequential sutures. You can see they're coming from inferior to superior. Again, use them in color so that they are alternating, so that you're not mixing up. So I typically go blue bottommost because that's the one difficult to visualize, then white, then blue, and then white, so that you're not mixing them up. And then finally, you tie them together. Once you've tied your medial row, I always tie the medial row, you pull just the 6 out of the 8. You don't have to do a 2 anchor double row. And you bring your lateral anchor lateral to the biceps groove so that you can do a double row repair here. And then this is the final picture where you can see the only problem with the out of the box technique is that you cannot see how the anatomy is being restored. So you have to finish everything and come back in the glenohumeral joint and then be able to evaluate, yes, this subscap has come back with its turgor, its anatomy, and the footprint has been covered completely. So finally, in conclusion, out of the box requires a schema, the planning. This is the planning for you. Ensure you've done the rotator interval release, check the axial nerve, and then go from bottom to top. And tightening the subscap will allow a massive cuff tear to become repairable as well. And never do a coroplasty. We don't need to, and hardly ever does. It's just a theoretical practice, really speaking. So it is a Sisyphean task to get shoulder function back again. It's a Greek adage, but I won't go through that.